Welcome back to ET with GOTB, part 2 of our WSL preview. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Welcome back to part 2. We obviously did part 1 on Monday, dropped it on Monday. So if you haven't watched that, I would recommend going back and watching that first. You didn't necessarily, it's not like prerequisite to watching this one. Like, you'll be absolutely fine if you just watch this one. But, to get the full picture of all of the 12 teams, do go back and listen to that. We previewed 6 teams. We had audio from some players. We haven't got audio from all players from every club. Not all players from every club, but a player from every club. Could you imagine, bloody hell, interviewing all of them? Last season we did 4 a player.
That was too much.
That was hard. But this season, rather than having a single media day, there were 12 individual club media days, which kicked off on the 31st of July. So understandably, many of us weren't actually in the country. So I think in total, we managed to do about 9 or 10. We didn't get Arsenal because they didn't offer the format that the other clubs were offering. So we couldn't do like a sit-down 1v1 kind of interview with someone for the pod. We weren't around for Brighton.
Nope.
It was the only time that our schedule didn't work. We were on holiday, to be fair.
I think the majority of the press pack were on holiday. I think that's been the problem with this whole setup, is that for a lot of the consistent WSL media, they probably weren't around in the form that they could be around, because the nature of the Euros, the fact that it was spread across 12 days rather than one day, which logistically is problematic for the journalists. I know the players, it's fine, and the clubs, it's fine, but for us, it's a nightmare.
Yes, we've had a few technical issues as well, which is really annoying because we made such an effort recording Leicester and getting into a place in a car where the hotspot worked, and we were stationary to do the interview. And then I listened to it back yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, there's the most horrendous echo only when Julie Thibault speaks and not when you speak. And we know how delicate you guys are about audio, and we want it to be absolutely perfect, but there was no listening to that, unfortunately. But we're still going to try and use that in some format, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because she was really good.
Write it somewhere.
But yeah, so here and there's a few little bits that we didn't quite manage to get a player from each, but we've done our very best. So yes, firstly, before we kick off into the second set of clubs, this is your reminder to make sure that you're subscribed wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening to your podcast. It means you don't miss an episode. Sometimes we drop a sneaky one without any warning because we're annoying like that. We're going to try and do a bit more reaction stuff this season as well. So we might have more stuff popping up here and there. Do subscribe as well. Follow us across all of our social media platforms. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything. And we've got Substack. And there's a free and a paid option. So the paid option will get some more behind the scenes stuff. We'll release some more content from the media days we did.
And that will obviously build throughout the season.
It will.
It won't be perfect right now. But it will build. It's good.
We're doing a good job.
It's good right now.
We're doing a lot of channels.
A building process.
It is, but we'd also like to hear from you, the kind of things you might like to see or see covered, or a way in which they're covered, or a particular angle you want to see. Do drop us a message and we'll see what we can do. Always good to hear from you. Okay, much like the previous episode, we're going to do 6 teams. Going to chat a little bit about the admin side of things, the nuts and bolts of the teams, how they got on last season, how we expect them maybe to do this season, and then maybe a few words from a player from that club as well, if you're very lucky. Right, kicking off in no particular order. Arsenal. Manager Renee Sleggers, captain Kim Little. Last season they finished second on 48 points, 12 points off the top. Players out, the likes of Lena Hurtig, Amanda Illestedt, Thea Goldie, Freya Godfrey. Laura Vienoiter, of course, has gone permanent to Manchester City. Rosa Kafaji and Michelle Adjumang are gone out on loan to Brighton, and Layla Harbert has gone on loan to Portland Thorns as well, which I'm sure she's going to have loads of experience over in the NWSL. Players in, you might not have heard, Olivia Smith, the £1 million signing, Taylor Hines as well, Borbe and Kelly. Kelly's now permanent, of course. Chloe Kelly, she'd come in the January window and is now a permanent member of the Arsenal team. Last season highlights, what could it possibly be? Winning the Champions League, of course. That was huge for not only Arsenal, but I think generally the WSL. Has an impact on the, what's it called? Not the rankings, but the what's it? There's a word that's completely gone out of my head.
Coefficient?
There we go. And they're all probably sitting there shouting at me. Yeah, it does impact coefficient as well, doesn't it? Having an English team win it?
Yes, it does. It means that this team, of course, it's nothing to do with the coefficient this year, but it means that this year Chelsea and Arsenal are both automatic at the group stage.
Right.
Because they're the winners of the tournament, and the champions of the WSL go straight in. So that means that they haven't had to do this qualification, which can be a bit of a pain in the neck, which I think when we get onto Manchester United we'll talk about a bit later.
But well done Man United getting to the first round.
Man United. But I think that's one thing. I think the coefficient helps us from next season as well, in terms of lifting the fact that it wasn't just Arsenal winning it, it was the fact that Chelsea and City both got to the semi-finals as well.
And City got to the quarter-finals.
Quarter-final. The quarter-final run, the semi-final run for Chelsea, and then the final winning run for Arsenal is what has helped push England up the chart, and it means you just have more direct entries to the Champions League.
So for those of you that aren't Arsenal fans and watched it and went, God damn you, it does actually kind of have an impact on the wider entry to the Champions League as well. So
don't even try and ask me how the coefficient is calculated. I'm not a mathematician and I've never been able to understand it. It's a bit like FIFA World Rankings.
Come to us with the knowledge, but not that knowledge.
Anything mathematical. Stay away from
Unfortunately, it's neither of our strengths. Anyway, slightly off track. Last season, low lights for Arsenal. Probably the heavy losses at the end of the season will have frustrated them. To both Aston Villa and Brighton, I don't think it would have meant that they could have caught Chelsea, but they certainly could have reduced that 12-point gap. I think probably the start of the season wasn't brilliant, having the manager switch. Do you know what? That was probably a positive and a negative. Having to have a manager switch so early on in the season, and then Renee coming in had a real positive impact.
Yeah, I think the problem is that when you're looking at the start of the season, the campaign is they're on a losing wicket almost. They're playing catch-up before the season's even really begun because of that start and that heavy defeat in the Champions League. There was just such a feeling of malaise around the club that they really need to change something. So, there was a positive with Renee Slegers. I wouldn't think they're too bothered about the losses to Aston Villa and Brighton. I think it was very much a case. They knew they pretty much... I know it went down to the final day, but they pretty much secured second spot, and I think all eyes were on that Champions League final and that gap between I think it was just like that turnaround. They had like 3 weeks and they had to put it all into winning that Champions League.
For the rest of us, it would have been nice to not have second place 12 points behind first place.
No, I know, but I think for Arsenal, I don't think they'll be worried about some defensive aspects, I think, because there were like some clear
serious
holes
lapses.
And for sure Renee Slegers won't be impressed with those performances, but I think there was a clear reason behind them that maybe doesn't prolong into the season, but I may be proved wrong.
Well, we shall see, because Leah Williamson, of course, is not available at the beginning of the season because she is recovering from an injury she picked up in the Euros. A slight knock, as they called it, and then she walks out with like a Robocop leg or something. So it's not the most slightly panic-inducing photo, I'm sure, for Arsenal fans.
I mean, maybe between now of the time of recording and the time of this going out, Leah Volti is strongly rumoured to be leaving the club. Geraldine Reuteler is strongly rumoured to be coming into the club.
Stop it.
So
we love Geraldine Reuteler.
We do. We need to go and find our inflatable unicorn.
Do we tell her that if she comes, that we named an inflatable unicorn? And rode down the river on it.
That shit. But yes, we need to go and reclaim our unicorn, because Geraldine is fingers crossed she comes to England. I think that would be a good move for her. So there's going to be a few moves. I think Arsenal in the window haven't been particularly
prolific. I mean,
they caught the headlines with the £1 million signing.
Have they plugged gaps?
I think they've still got gaps to plug. Certainly, if you think about the business that they did last window, in the January window, I think you still got Jenna Nice-Wonga coming in. She hopefully is settled now, and she provides that kind of depth at fullback that Arsenal don't really have. They do have centre-back options. I know everyone's terrified about Leah Williamson, and I mean rightly so. She is a very strong cog in the way that Arsenal play football. But you do have behind her, the likes of Lotte Wubamori and Laia Credina, who have proved at different times that they're very, very good defenders. The problem for them, I think everyone was looking at them in that pre-season defeat to Tottenham, and they hadn't played a game since February or March. So I think they just need a bit of time to get back into the swing of things.
I think, though, isn't it mad to think that a Leah Williamson not in an Arsenal squad at the beginning of the season feels more impactful than not having a Lauren James and a Lucy Bronze in Chelsea, given the quality of LJ and Lucy Bronze. But then you think, Christ, that's because Chelsea have really considered depth in all of those areas. It's interesting because, there's such a good pair. To be missing them, you'd think.
Yeah. And I think about Leah Volti yes, she is a massive blow. Like, no, she's a massive player. Not a massive blow. She's been a massive player for Arsenal over the years.
But she's been in and out last season.
She's been in and out last season. She is that figure that everyone loves. I think everyone across football loves, whether you're an Arsenal fan or you're not.
She's a lovely person.
She's just a lovely human being. And it is a blow that she is leaving, but probably good for her career. But when you're thinking about the backup that Arsenal have, they do have Kyra Kuna-Cross. I know she's not like... She's a bit more like versatile maybe, but this is her time. And I think when she broke onto the scene kind of at the World Cup, everyone is expecting her to be a first team player every day, every week. We're 2 years on from that now. And I think she showed in spells last season. I thought in the first bit under Jonas Eidevall, she was their best player, along with Laia Cadena, on the pitch. And she was unlucky to be one of the ones to maybe fall out of the starting 11. I know she had some injury issues, I think, at times. But I think this is her time to really step up and nail down that spot.
I think as well, Arsenal will be looking to go further in the domestic competitions as well. They were, of course, knocked out by Liverpool in the quarterfinals. That was quite a disappointing game for them, not the most enjoyable game to watch. I remember it was like, is anyone going to score a goal, please? And of course, they'll want to get their hands back on the Subway League Cup. They want to get their hands on the Subway League Cup. It used to be the Conti Cup. So yeah, they'll want to go far in those competitions as well. But that is definitely going to need depth. And I think, of course, rumours have been swirling about Beth Mead going to London City Lionesses. I think she'll stay. I think there's an element of London City Lionesses naming some big players they want and hoping it sounds good.
I also think, like...
Why would you not want Champions League football?
Well, that from her point of view, but I also think from Arsenal's point of view, you don't have very many wide players of her quality or her experience around. And yes, Arsenal have ample, players in those positions or who can play those positions when you're thinking about Caitlin Ford and Marion on the left. Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly, Olivia Smith now. There's players across that line who can play those wide areas, but I think Beth Mead brings that level of experience that, really, really helped.
And I think at times there may have been an over-reliance on some players, so this will allow for more rotation. And Beth Mead showed in the Euros just how versatile she was.
She was part of that goal that won in the Champions League.
Yeah, which people seem to forget.
She's very, very crucial.
Yeah. So we don't have any audio, unfortunately, from a player to drop in here. Expectations this season. Do you think after the Champions League win, everyone's expectations are super high? They expect Arsenal, this is the season that they're going to win and finally knock Chelsea off the perch of winning, a seventh in a row potentially? Or do you think those expectations are too high too quick?
I think Chelsea are always going to be favourites because they have the experience, the mentality to see out a league season, the squad, and they just know what they're doing in terms of league football, and that's the kind of consistency that Arsenal have failed to find in recent years. But I think they're in as good a place as any to definitely mount a challenge and make it closer than last year for sure. I think in terms of they've learned how to break down low blocks. I think we saw that as a progress of last season. Not all the time, but sometimes they'd fall back into their bad habits. But they have learned to beat the lower down teams a lot better than what they were doing under Jonas Eidevall.
They went on that run where they scored something like 4 or more goals in a game for 6 or 7 games, and they at home or something like that.
And the next challenge now is to consistently beat those teams in and around them. Beat Chelsea at least once or twice, and not drop the points where you're automatically 6 points down. I know, it's just that leaves you a mountain to climb.
And I think I said this on Upfront. I think it was Upfront, not this one, where the starting fixtures in the beginning of the season can have such an impact further down. You can look back at your season and think, if we hadn't started so slowly right at the beginning, we could be in XY position. So actually, they've got a couple of games. Their opening game is against London City Lionesses on the Saturday at the Emirates, of course. And then I think they play West Ham before they face Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, 2 London derbies isn't an easy start. No. And I think, especially at this time of year when no one's quite up to full speed, it's kind of unknown about what's going to happen on the pitch. And London City are going to be full of energy given, the investment that's happened and the fact that they're in the league for the first time. West Ham will be looking to set down their mark as well. So it's not going to be easy, but when you're thinking about starts and you're comparing starts, that's a pretty nice
compared
start.
To last season.
Yeah, compared to last season.
They kicked off at Manchester City. Yeah, it was a draw, wasn't it?
And then they had Manchester United their third game.
Yeah, and then they played Chelsea quite early on as well. So
I think it's a good opportunity to get themselves up and running.
Yeah, I just think with Arsenal, what is different for me watching Arsenal versus watching Chelsea is you have a bit more of a, ultimately what the outcome will most likely be against Chelsea. And with Arsenal, sometimes you just don't know. And I think that's the thing they need to get rid of, that kind of inconsistency in how they play sometimes. And, I know they might be looking at West Ham and think, okay, this is a game we can win, but it was 4-3 last time and 3-0 down at one point. So West Ham will be looking at that and rubbing their hands together. Okay, pick out for me who will be a key player for Arsenal this season, do you think?
Just one.
Yeah, and I said this to you last time, you gave me loads. The last episode.
I still think Alessia Russo. I think she is leading that line, and she is she sets the tempo for their attack. She's added the goals to her repertoire as well, and I think she is the one that they look to score the goals, but also to make the goals.
Okay. Arsenal fans, you can let us know in the comments who key players for you. Tricky, I guess, when there's quite a lot of depth and quality, but do let us know who you think is going to have an important season. All right, number 2, Aston Villa. Manager Natalia Arroyo, captain Rachel Daly. Last season finished 6th, 25 points, 35 points off the top. Players out: Rachel Corsi, Jordan Nobbs, Dan Turner, Maz Pacheco, Ruby Ray Tucker and Sophia Poor. Players in: Lynn Willems, Ellie Roebuck, Jill Baines, Lucia Kendall, Ocean Deslandes, Maya Hijikato. We have to, I know she's not a signing, but Maggie Murphy as the managing director. What a signing that is.
Honorary signing.
Yes. So, I think things are looking quite exciting for Aston Villa. Last season highlights, I feel like you can wrap the highlights and the lowlights in one, because I feel like for them, the lowlights was just the beginning of the season up until maybe February time. The manager merry-go-round, they couldn't buy a win, really struggling to settle under Robert DePau. Ultimately, he left in and was let go in kind of uncomfortable circumstances. Sean Goater came in for a while. So it was very much an up and down situation. And then when Natalia did come in, she came in and was basically suddenly fighting to get out of the relegation battle, which I don't think she was necessarily expecting. So that's the low light. The highlight then for me is they had the best form in the last 5 games in the whole league. They won their last 5 games. Nobody else did that in the league.
They look pretty exciting doing it as well.
Yeah, and 5 of their 7 wins came under Natalia Arroyo, I think, which is, incredible. So
I think it was a really, really hard season. They started pretty brightly in that game against Chelsea. I know they lost, but they competed well, and then it just
I remember watching that and thinking, okay, this is what they're about.
Go incredibly downhill from that point onwards, and they just could get no rhythm, no momentum. There was obviously stuff happening behind the scenes with DePau and the management style that he was bringing, and the players were obviously not happy with that either, and the club eventually was not happy with that either. And it just led to, it's always a bit of a roller coaster when you have to chop and change managers. And it's very rare that you actually get someone in like Renee Sliggers for Arsenal who hits the ground running like that, I think. So you have a bounce for a bit and then it can always, unbounce itself. But I think for Natalia, I think as soon as they secured safety, I think it was in March, and Crystal Palace got relegated, that's when she could kind of take off the brake pedals and kind of stabilizers and kind of go full throttle with the kind of style that she wanted to imprint on them, because there was no jeopardy. It didn't actually matter whether they finished 6th or 11th, as long as they weren't going down. It was the fun thing.
I tell you what, though, at Christmas, if someone had told you Aston Villa are going to finish 6th, you wouldn't have believed them.
Absolutely not, because they were really, really struggling. And I think she's been quite savvy in the window. She spoke about the need to get in fresh young players. I think that's been the last couple of maybe 3 transfer windows at Villa. They had quite a lot of players who, very, very good players, very experienced, but maybe in the twilight of their career, and they've gradually kind of got rid of them, moved them on, and brought in some fresh young blood. Like you think about the signing of Chastity Grant last season, superb addition to the league. When you're looking at like Jill Byings coming in, she was on loan at Aston Villa last season. She wore the captain's armband on multiple occasions, and the fact that they've managed to get her back permanently is crucial. Someone like an Ellie Roebuck as well. Very experienced, but also still pretty young in terms of her game time, and I think she'll be looking to nail down that number 1 jersey.
And also, that quality and depth brings challenges, and we in the first episode spoke to Natalie Bjorn about that. About yeah, you might have quality around you in your position, but actually that forces you to either sink or swim. You either improve quickly or you get phased out. So bringing in that kind of quality, that kind of experience in that goalkeeper position will only push the other goalkeepers in that position, Sabs D'Angelo, to improve, and it can only be a good thing, right?
And she's also bought players that really fit her style of play. Like, she likes to press, she likes to be direct in terms of they like to go as quick from back to front as possible. They like to hit the wide area. So Kirsty Hansen signed a new contract.
Mm-hmm.
She is absolutely crucial to that. Chastity Grant on the other side as well. Those kind of players that are aggressive in the press, intelligent players. When you're looking at Lucia Kendall, she's young, she's from Southampton, but she's got all of the qualities to perform that kind of style of play. So I would be pretty excited by Villa.
And as well, they've kept the spine enough to have those relationships that are integral to their style of play still be there, and slotting those other players in. It won't. I don't think it will feel like, okay, we need to wait a couple of games before they find their feet. Like, I feel like having retained that spine in both central and wide areas means they can continue that style of play. They were one of the teams, I imagine, that wish the season didn't end when it did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think hopefully they can retain that excitement that they had at the end of the season, coming into the new season, and think we're going to hit the ground running.
I think they'll be looking at they've got Brighton, haven't they? First game. And while that is really going to be a really competitive, it's always been a competitive fixture, I think they will, as will Brighton, be looking at that encounter and going, this is a real opportunity for us to hit 3 points and get up and running. That's nothing against the quality of Brighton. Brighton are very good.
I think those two, though, will be the ones saying, we want to be the 5th place team this season.
But if they're going to get that, they have to beat each other. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating, I think.
God, it's going to be a 0-0 draw, it. I said it here. Come back and we'll rewind.
Wasn't there like 3 sendings off or 2 sendings off in the last encounter?
Something like that. Brighton, and actually, last season, we didn't have a draw for like 3 or 4. There was quite a few games that were played where there was no draw, I think, if I'm right in thinking that. Anyway, yes, I think a lot of people are excited to see Aston Villa. They've, of course, sold their women's team to a separate company. This whole thing really confuses me, but basically it allows for more direct funding to the women's side. I think having Maggie Murphy coming in is a real show of ambition, because she's not the kind of person who would take a role and not think she can have an impact.
Yeah, I will. I mean, I will try and do an explainer on this at some point.
That would be great.
But there are 2 benefits to it. A, it gets rid of, it basically frees up the books for the men's side. So it allows them
Financial
to be PSR compliant, so for the Premier League and stuff like that. But it also allows then investment to come into the separate investment to come into the women's team. So you're looking at like Chelsea with Alexis Ohanian. Sorry, I can.
Serena's husband.
Serena, also known. His I always see too many N's in that name. But with that, he's brought in like outside investment, and with Villa, they've sold a stake to an American company, which is also outside investment. West Ham are also
investigation that. Looking into
they're like it's a high percentage. I think it's a 49% stake with this with Monarch investment fund, who have funded teams in the NWSL.
Okay,
but it allows the teams to then have more independent financial. So there is a lot of negativity around it in terms of people think they're cooking the books. But I think actually there is also the positive side, is that you could get more independent investment into a club.
Yes,
for clubs like Tottenham or West Ham
also,
or whatever, who aren't necessarily investing.
I also think if you don't like men's football clubs doing things to get around financial stuff, why are you watching men's football? Because it's not a new thing. But yeah, I do think it also releases the women's team from kind of just waiting for scraps from the men's team. Stuff like that.
It just gives opportunities for other investors to come in and provide more money.
Unique investment as well that is specific to the women's team.
And it's way different from the men's game, I think. So
anyway, this is getting into the episode you're going to do explaining this for us.
But yeah, it's very interesting to see how that pans out.
It is. As we said, looking forward to seeing how these teams get on. We got to sit down with Missy Bo Kearns to ask her about pre-season and about goals for the future as well. So here's what she had to say.
I guess you touched on it there, playing with a smile on your face again. That kind of feels like it summed up Aston Villa a little bit last season. There were difficult times, and then as the season went on, it seemed like the team were just playing with that enjoyment and that freedom again.
Yeah, I think it took a while for us to gel. We had a lot of changes, and it's normal. That's football. It's not an excuse. But I think when we clicked, and we was building. And I think that's the joy of football. Things can change overnight, and once you get momentum, it's really nice and it's great to be part of. And obviously when you haven't got momentum, it's difficult. It's a lot harder to come into training and have the same attitude, but to the way we turned the season round, it just shows the character and the belief and the determination of the squad.
And as a player, I guess when a new manager comes in and brings in a style, and as a team, you really kind of have to commit to that, right? Like, because I imagine you have to learn new things, you have to develop these relationships and believe in the process. And I guess when you start getting these really good results on the pitch, like you say, it must feel like everything just slots into place.
Yeah, I think when Natalia come in, she gave a certain style that she wanted, but it was also, for me personally, she gave me a lot of freedom. And I think in that moment, that's what I needed to express myself and be the best version of me. And I think that's what then made me grow, because I could play my game and she didn't try and change too much too soon. And I'm really looking forward to this pre-season and learning lots from her and developing more as a player and as a person.
Yeah, I think a lot of us felt like that at the end of the season when looking back at various teams. I think we felt with Aston Villa, you could see what Natalia was trying to do. You could see how quickly you guys gelled under her. And I guess that makes it all the more exciting for you guys next season. And I guess this season coming up, I should say, now that you've got a pre-season under your belt, I guess some new players coming in as well to try and develop the team even further. It just must make it really exciting, right?
Yeah, I think this pre-season is going to be important. We'll have a lot of time on the grass to implement Natalia's actual style, and because certain games and stuff, we had a style, but there wasn't much time. We had to make a fast change, where now we've got 6-7 weeks before the season starts, so we've got time to develop and all be on the same page and be the best version of ourselves come September.
Another key player there for Aston Villa, and like if you said a season or two ago they were going to be without Rachel Corsie, Jordan Nobbs, Dan Turner, Masachek, thinking, oh my God. But actually a lot of those players weren't getting huge minutes. Obviously Rachel Corsie injured, but Jordan Nobbs kind of in and out of the team. Same with Dan and Maz at times. I think Maz got a little bit more time under Natalia Arroyo, but to think actually they're not necessarily going to be as big a loss as you might have thought in previous seasons.
I think that decision was made very early as well. Like we found out before the end of the season that those 4 players were leaving. So definitely not a surprise. I think certainly with the first 3, there was a feeling that, maybe their time had to come to move on at the club.
Yeah.
That's not to say like Jordan Nobbs is still an absolutely brilliant player, but it felt like the time was shifting under Arroyo where she wasn't being used as frequently. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all by the movement.
So we're kind of imagining that they will be fighting for that top 6 finish again this season, if you can't tell from what we've just said. So rather than me asking you expectations, I think our listeners have very much, and viewers have gathered where we think Aston Villa might finish this season. Key player for them?
I think Missy Bow will have a good year. I think she struggled with injury last year. She's had a good preseason. She had the joy of being called into the England squad in terms of the preparation. She was like one of the backup players. So I think that's a big incentive for her. She obviously captains the under-23s. And this is a real opportunity for her to kick on her career. I think she's struggled at times to nail down the starting place. So I think that will be key. I also think, you can't look past Rachel Daly. I know she's ever probably nearing the end of her career, but she's ever present and she is a leader and she gets the goals when she needs to.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to team number 3 of this week's episode, Brighton. Manager Dario Vidicic, captain Maisie Simons. Congratulations, Maisie. Delighted to see that, young captain. Last season finish was, of course, 5th place. They were last season's disruptors, finishing on 28 points, 32 points off the top. They've had quite a changeover. I might not go through every single player, but players out, the likes of Poppy Pattinson, Maria Torres-Dottir, Guro Bergvand, Stefanovic, Pauline Bremer, a lot of kind of Vicky Losada, Nikita Paris, players that were involved a lot last season. They've brought in Moeka Minami, Nadozi as well between the sticks, big signing for them. Catano, Camacho, and Pom from Chelsea, so shoring up at the back there, because I think that was when I saw the number of players leaving defensively, I kind of thought, oh dear, this could be a bit of an issue for Brighton this season. Last season highlights, finishing 5th, first of all, under Dario Vidicic, his first season in charge, even though they gave teams in and around them ample opportunity to catch up with them. Those are the teams didn't want it. I would say as well, taking points off United, Chelsea and Arsenal, and I'd say their home form was very good. I think they lost 2 games
2 all season.
In at home. So they've turned
in the league.
Crawley, yes. They've turned Crawley into a bit of a fortress now, and I think they're doing a very good job of increasing their fan base season on season. It's a nice, noisy place to go now. Last season, lowlights, as I touched on, probably the lack of consistency and the fact they managed to hang on to 5th place, but I do think there were times where they thought, oh God, someone's going to catch us. So I'd say that would be frustrating for them. That'll be something they'll be looking to work on.
I would add to that, the form from the second part of the year was really, really poor.
January to March.
Yeah, even a bit beyond that, I think they were so... I think that is the worry. I think we all look at the way that they finished, the place that they finished, and we praise them for that, and quite rightly, and they had a really strong start to this year. But there is a little bit in me of going, they dropped off so much from January onwards.
Do you know why I think that was? I think no one was expecting Dario Vidicic to come in and play the style of football that they were playing, an attacking style of football, a possession-based type of football, something that they were really wedded to and committed to. And I don't think the opposition teams expected that and necessarily set up well for that. I think come the second half of the season, they were like, oh yeah, you're going to play out from the back. Even if we're pressing you, you're going to play out from the back regardless. We talked about that a lot last season. They were so committed to it that then it suddenly made them predictable.
And they had little, even in the first part of the year, when they got heavily beaten twice in the league and the cup, I think, by Arsenal. They were properly heavily beaten, and there was there wasn't a plan B, and I think that developed throughout the season. I think they did grow with the season. I think Dario Vidicic he was still very much wedded to his style, but he became less maybe naive with it in terms of understanding that against some teams you need to not do
relinquish possession.
And I think they showed that in the final second last game against Arsenal. I think they showed that kind of growth. But I do think it's worth mentioning that their second part of the year was really, really poor.
Well, that's why I said finishing 5th was great, but there were so many opportunities to drop further down the table that they just didn't because other teams couldn't take it. And maybe this is a question for a later podcast, something we can delve into deeper. But do you think, when you say about a lack of plan B, that often comes with managers who are wedded to a very possession-based type of football? And part of me wonders, is the reason they're less likely to play different styles is because a possession-based type of football is something you need to do all the time to be really bloody good at it. So all of your training almost is just playing possession under pressure. And it gives you less time to then say, right, we're going to try. You look at an Everton who are willing to adapt and change. You look at a Chelsea, especially under Emma Hayes. They were willing to say, in this game, we're going to try dominate possession. In this game, we're happy for you to have it. And I think perhaps, is there a theme amongst managers who are very wedded to that style? Is that why?
I think it's really interesting. Please forgive me for quoting John Terry here, but he was on a podcast on Sky Sports or something doing the punditry very, very recently. And he was talking about how he gets really annoyed that the players do the same things in every situation. And that comes from the manager. They're told to play out from the back, so they always play out from the back. And actually you have to be able to give your players the freedom to know that when playing out from the back is the right thing to do, and when playing out from the back is the wrong thing to do, when you should go long. And he was saying that during his career, they had the freedom. Of course, they want to be ball-playing centre-backs, but they were given the freedom to understand those game situations. And I think that's really interesting, because I think football these days is less about... There's less freedom given to the players sometimes in terms of learning, being intelligent to what they need to do on the field, and it's very much dictated from the manager, whereas actually the management need to give the players the confidence and the ability to understand the situations where it works and it works really well, or it doesn't work.
I think as the game develops tactically and managers improve, there's going to be a period of time where you're going to have teams that will stick to exactly what, and we saw at Arsenal actually at the beginning of last season, they were almost afraid to go outside of what they were being told to do, and they lost that element of creativity. And I do wonder, is part of that because there's a lot less games in the women's game to bed in ideas and styles, and you think about how often you have to do something for it to become a habit, right? And actually perhaps there's going to be that period of time as teams start to develop more tactically, that you're going to have that period of working out the freedom given to players, but also the wedding to a particular style, and where that kind of balance is.
Yeah, but it is, as a viewer, it's the most frustrating thing, because you see maybe a high press pressing a team playing out from the back, and they lose the ball 5 times, and you're like,
stop doing it.
Why are you still doing it?
Short corners.
It's not, if a team is pressing you like that, try and go bypass the press, because there are spaces out there. If you're more astute to it, whether you're hitting the width of the pitch or from the goalkeeper, or whether you're going long direct to a forward, there are opportunities to change things up, and it makes you not so predictable.
We've gone slightly off topic, and this is definitely something I think we should delve into this season. Maybe we chat to a manager. Maybe we chat to a manager who is wedded to a style. Maybe we chat to a manager who's a lot more flexible. And actually, I'm intrigued about Martin Ho. It was something he said in one of his post-match media appearances, was about having a plan A, B, C, D. And actually, it's super interesting to see the pros and cons of both of them. The reason I'd say we brought this up around Brighton is because they were the ones who frustrated us the most playing out from the back.
But it applies to a lot of teams.
It does, but they were also a team who were so wedded to a clear style of football, and you basically got to watch them this season try and learn what the manager wanted, and watch how he gave the players he told players, play out from the back. If we get it wrong, we get it wrong. And some managers are like, it's not always going to be perfect, but we need to commit to our style. Other managers will say, we just need to get the points. So it's an interesting angle, and I'm actually not surprised that this has come up within the Little Brighton section. But apologies, we've gone slightly off topic. I do think part of me is wondering how easily this mini transition period, I think it is a bit of a transition period for Brighton, because essentially Dario came in and maybe wasn't able to bring in all the players he wanted. I do think they made a lot of good signings last season, and a lot of signings. We've got a lot of kind of clear out again and new players coming in again. How quickly can they settle this time, do you think?
I think this is always the problem with probably brings into the question of like getting rid of managers too easily as well. New managers need time to build, especially with teams like Brighton or West Ham or whatever. Leicester, who are trying to build and make a challenge, and they need time to reflect that, like the squad, to their abilities and how they want to play football. And I think it's never going to happen in one window or 2 windows. It does take 4 or 5 windows to get to the place that you want to do that. And Dario is very much in the midst of that rebuild. I think it's quite clear, like some of the departures, I would have probably been the most surprised by Guru Bergsvand leaving. I think that would have been a blow. But the rest of them kind of, maybe Nikita Paris as well, but the rest of them kind of, you could understand why they weren't quite fitting into a system anymore as it was. I think they bought astutely. I think Minami from AS Roma is a really, really good buy, brings a lot of experience, Champions League experience as well, vital. Nadozi brings that quality between the sticks, which is key. They've sent Melina Loek out on loan to Hammarby, so that's opened up the goalkeeping.
And of course,
space.
Kafaji and Ajimang in.
Yeah, Ajimang is a huge coup as well to get her in, and she would be definitely looking at the number 9 shirt and going, that's mine, because of the lack of centre forwards or the opening up of that centre forward space. So I think there are serious opportunities. It's some nice young players coming in as well. It's a team building for the future, I think, rather than necessarily looking to the past.
Do we need to manage our expectations a bit? Because every season we have a team who punches up through the top 6 and we all get real excited and think, oh my God, it's happening. We're going to have a team now that disrupts and starts challenging for 4th. And then the following season, boom. So do we need to maybe manage our expectations on Brighton a little bit and not put too many kind of demands for them to be pushing for that top 6? Or do you think they can genuinely challenge again?
I think all of these teams can genuinely challenge for that fifth.
Do you think they will genuinely challenge?
I mean, I'm so reticent now to
predict.
Put my flag in the sand on it, because we get abuse for it.
What do you mean you don't know where every team is going to finish this season? I thought you were an expert.
If we say Brighton are going to finish 5th, it's inevitably when they don't it comes back and haunts us. But I also think a lot of these teams are in a building phase.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay to say that any of 3 or 4 teams will be 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
And they're competing for this.
And to be honest, last season, 3 or 4 teams could have still finished 5th with kind of 3 games to go.
It could have literally changed.
Yeah.
Just like that. So.
Yeah. Okay. Key player you may have mentioned already.
Michelle.
Yeah, is that who your key player will be, do you think?
Yeah, no, I think
Fran
this is
Kirby?
a real opportunity for her. I do think Fran Kirby is still key to this Brighton team. They played better whenever she was fit and on the pitch. So I think she is the creative cog in the wheel. And yes, she's maybe on the latter end of her career, but freeing her up from international football as well will help. I think the fact that she's retired. So she is definitely the creative.
No audio, unfortunately, from Brighton for this episode due to a schedule clash. We were picking my brother up from the airport and I couldn't leave him there for hours and hours. And it was a 2-hour drive away. So unfortunately, we don't have any audio from a Brighton player. But if you would like to hear from Fran Kirby, we did chat to her during the Euros. And that's a little bit of a standalone episode around the building of a lioness. So, you can go back. It's not match specific or anything like that. If you scroll back and want to have a listen to that, she was very, very good. She spoke really, really well. That is 3 teams down, 3 more to go. Okay, team number 4 is Manchester United manager Mark Skinner, who's the longest serving manager in the league now, I believe. Captain May Letizier last season finished 3rd on 44 points, 16 points off the top. Players out this season, just Aoife Mannion and Alyssa Ahern. Players in this season, just Friedlin Arolfo and Julia Zigliotti. Last season highlights: getting Champions League spot, getting back into the Champions League. Absolutely, they will be delighted about that. And probably beating Manchester City 4-2. I'd say that's definitely up there with a fun day for Manchester United fans, that for sure. Last season lowlights, probably the loss to Liverpool. I'd say maybe the Brighton, Villa, West Ham draws. They're probably the frustrating results that you might look back on and think, not necessarily that you lost the league there, but you would think to yourself, you pick up an extra 6 points, your momentum's slightly different, your mindset's slightly different, the league might feel slightly different. And I think they're the games, the ones that trip you up, that maybe we don't think about when we're watching it, because you do get those games that trip you up. I think
there was a feeling in the first half of the year that while they were getting points, they weren't losing games, and they became very, very defensively strong. They had a really good back line. Letizier is, playing every single minute of every game, and she had a really, really good season as captain. And then you had Fallon Torres-Joyce, who really took to that number 1 jersey like a duck to water.
Yes.
So I think there were some really good signs defensively. I think where they lacked, especially in that kind of first half of the year, before the January, was the goal scoring. And that will be down to a number of things. I think they weren't quite figuring out how to get the best out of Elizabeth Turland and how to link up with her. They lost Ella Toone for a few months to injury. That will have harmed them. They weren't quite sure. I think they tried to move the pieces around a bit. I'm still not convinced Dominique Janssen is the best option in centre midfield. That's probably going to change, I imagine, this season when we talk about the signings. But I think they were trying to fit the pieces together a bit. And yes, the restart to the year was really good until I think that lost to Liverpool, knocked them off track a bit. But they have shown that when we were talking earlier about like that, sticking to one style of football, I do think where I will give Mark Skinner credit, and I'm not being traditionally one to give him or like the progress or the club a load of credit, is that they did change their system a little bit. They definitely played longer balls at times. They did adapt to understand that being more direct isn't necessarily a bad thing, and they used it Torres-Joyce's and Letizier's range of passing to be able to do that and progress the ball forward more directly than having to pass their way through the thirds. And I think that ended up in some good results. I think especially when you have a striker like Elizabeth Turland on the end of things, she was really linking up well with I think at times Celine Bizet. Those balls in from the right hand side. Bizet was a huge buy as well, I think, last summer. So I think they'll be generally happy with the season overall. there will be some lowlights in that, but I think they would be pretty happy with what they did.
They did, of course, get to another FA Cup final. Third in a row, I believe. I think they've been to 4 in total. Am I right in that? Definitely 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
3 in a row. I think they'll be disappointed in the manner of the defeat, understandably. And then, of course, they went to the World Sevens and had a lot of fun at the World Sevens, which is great to see. Got to the final as well. Brought home a bag of cash.
$1 million worth.
And then, where is that gone?
So, like, some of it went on. I know some of it was the prize money. World Sevens made sure it went to the players as well. But you would expect, I mean, Manchester United shouldn't have to rely on a windfall from a competition like the World Sevens to invest in the team. And I think that's generally the frustration that is ever continuing with Manchester United, is their continued ability to deprioritise the women's team, especially over the men's team, I think, and to not really give it the consideration they deserve. And that's nothing to do with, Mark Skinner and the playing staff and the playing squad. They are just not getting the support from the highest up. And to bring in
two very good players.
They're very good players. They've got international experience, great quality.
Champions League experience.
I really love Giulia Ziggiotti. I think she's superb. Fridolina Rolfo, we all know what she can do. But Rolfo was on a free. She was
saving money. Well done.
No, I know. No, but this is my point. Like, how can there are gaps to fill in that squad. It's, if they do have injuries, they might hit a problem, especially
if they want to get into the group stage of Champions League.
If they get through this tricky SK Brann tie, which is tricky for many reasons. They should beat them, but SK, well, on paper you would think they should beat them, but SK Brann do have Champions League pedigree. I mean, they got to the quarterfinals. They are
still have Gupset.
They have Gupset
at the
moment. But I do think they are also in season. They play a summer season in Norway, so they've had more football than United have had recently, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. I think the other problem with this tricky round 3 is always a bit of a slippery banana skin, because it's sandwiched. So they play their first leg away before their second league game, which is against London City. And then they come back and play the home leg before a huge match with Arsenal. And it just, like, even when you have a small squad as well, a limited squad, it just, makes you a bit worried.
Listen, guys and gals, you want to be in Champions League, this is what you got to get used to, right?
But you need to, we've said it before with Manchester City, you need to build a squad for the Champions League
100%.
And to be prepared for that. And then, especially if they get through it, they're going to have to be dealing with that this whole season.
Can I come back to the point you made about the men's side as well, and prioritising the men's side? And I always find it interesting, because there's always an argument against supporting the women's team. Happy to lose money in the men's side. That's fine. Losing money in the men's side is not something to worry about. Losing money in the women's side, unacceptable. When the men's team are doing well, we need to prioritise the team that are doing well. So we're going to keep funding the men's team. I mean, to be fair, it's been a while for Manchester United. When the men's team aren't doing well, we need to prioritise the team that aren't doing well. So why would we fund them? It's always, it doesn't matter what the argument is. The argument always is we need to focus on the men's team. And we couldn't possibly afford to give a few shillings to the women's team, who are doing pretty well in spite of that.
This is a rather bleak circumstance that Manchester United find themselves in, is because, I mean, when something looks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. And so Jim Radcliffe, that's the phrase.
Some really duck-related things happening. Is it because it's raining outside?
I don't know.
Because I feel like if it walks like a horse and a zebra, if it sounds like if it hoots...
No, it looks like a duck. Anyway, beside the point. So Jim Radcliffe could not be more clear about his...
He does not care.
Lack of care for the women's team, or his disinterest in, and his desire, lack of desire to support them. He literally states it in every single interview that
you could ask him about the weather, and he'll somehow bring up how much he doesn't care about the women's football team.
And he might not say it in exactly, but it's pretty clear.
As well.
and so that's what the bleak outlook is for this Manchester United team. Yes, they have enough to do well enough in the WSL,
and actually credit to them to be able to perform like they do in spite of.
Yeah, they have you could tell at the World Sevens they have a squad that really do get on. They like each other. There's a good team camaraderie. I think that is credit to Mox here as well. He's built that. But I just think that you must be so sick of it if you're those players, where you're constantly not being given
Well, didn't it come out that like they got a jet over to the game, and then their option back was that they had to get a stopover and weren't getting back till late Sunday, so half the players paid for their own flights back.
Yeah, I didn't read the Manchester United statement yet on that, but that is what was reported. And yeah, it's constantly again and again. And when you're told, well, it has to be performance related, well, they did well last year. They got into
three FA Cup finals in a row.
3 FA Cup finals. They've won the FA Cup, not last season, the season before. They got into the Champions League football. They
got to the final of the World
with a
Sevens.
squad that was never really built. They challenged in the WSL, but it probably wasn't a squad built to win the league. And you're coming up against Chelsea. You get to the final of the World Sevens. You bring home that cash, and you're constantly hitting these progress. And reminded they're a pretty
new,
young team still. They're constantly hitting these targets, and they're not getting rewarded for them. And it must be so frustrating.
Well, in positive news, if they do make the Champions League, and touch wood they will, because it'd be great to have 3 English teams in the Champions League again. Logistically, that was so much fun to try and work out last season. I can't wait if we get to do it again. But you touched on it there, Mela Tizier, what a season she was having and how she's played pretty much every minute. And I asked her about this and I said, what are you going to do if you get in the Champions League? Like, you're going to have to play. She said, I'm going to try and play every minute again. So she was great to chat to. Here's what she had to say.
And how did you find the kind of role of being a leader last season? Did you really relish that?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Obviously, Mark gave me the opportunity at the start of the season, in the pre-season, and kind of was like straight in there, was like, yeah. And then he was like, you need to think about it. It's quite a big task. But yeah, no, I obviously went away and thought about it. And yeah, definitely, I really enjoyed it at the start. Kind of was trying to find my feet a little bit. And after that, I feel pretty confident. And I still get things wrong sometimes, of course. I'm still young, but I said with this before, like there's an amazing group of girls here, and Mark's been great with me as well as a captain and trying to develop me. So it's been really, really good for me, and I've really enjoyed it as well.
Did you find it maybe a bit more natural being a defender? Because I guess on the pitch you're almost conducting play a little bit, right?
Yeah.
In front of you. So did it you maybe had a little bit of that in the locker already that maybe you didn't realise?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like I've been captain at England youth level. I know it's not the same, but of course, like I play at the back and I've got to be the voice. I can see most things that other players can't see, and just trying to help them out as much as possible. I feel like I've been pretty vocal already, but I feel like obviously being given that role, and different players have come in. And at the start of last season, we lost a lot of. Not last season, whenever we lost a lot of players. So it was a new group, and we had to find relationships, and I think we definitely did that after a few games. And I feel like I'm pretty loud, and I wear my heart on my sleeve when I play and get quite. I don't know if the refs like me or what, but I try and be professional as much as I can. But I just want to be a calm and composed presence at the back, and someone that they can look to. That's kind of communicate and play, and trying to have the ball and trying to create things as well.
And just finally for you, do you set yourself personal goals, or is it trying to play every minute again? Or
I love that challenge, to be honest. I always do challenge myself, and the coach and staff, and Mark's like, if you think you're going to play every minute the group, if you think you're going to play every minute this season, I'm like, all right, watch me. I'll try my best. I just want to keep playing well, and want to help the team even more. On the pitch, of course, I have my own IDP that I need to use and to help to get better, which is going to help better the team with my decision making and stuff. And of course, with that, to get some more minutes with England, that would be great. Moving forward too, but I'm just really looking forward to this season, the group we have, and the competitions that we're in.
Well, should you get to the Champions League, that's another challenge to play even more minutes, which will be super impressive.
Yeah, bring it on. Bring it on. Well, my body's like, no.
I think she's really proven herself as captain, a good young captain. Always interesting to see when a young captain gets chosen. Maisie Simons is another example of that.
I think, it's always been obvious that Letizia is a born leader. I remember watching her for the 17s, England 17s, and it's like when I watched many young 17s, but like Leah Williamson, it was so obvious that she was going to become England captain.
Layla Harbert.
You just, you kind of know the player, you can tell them instantly. It's not surprised me at all that she's taken it to, I'm going to say it again, like a duck to water. Duck. Now you've made me really
Duck
aware of the ducks. But she's thrived in the role. I think she's growing. I think she's been given the space to learn as well. I mean, you have to, when you appoint a young captain, understand that they're going to develop and they're not the finished product, and that's what you're buying into. And she's proven it every stage. She had such a good season last season. She's probably unlucky that she doesn't get game time with England. I think there are reasons for that, which I've explained on other pods, but I think she can count herself unlucky. More like circumstance and like timing.
But I also think it just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen.
No, I know, but like I think her main problem is that
the position she's in.
Leah Williamson shape in front of her, and Leah Williamson, A, is the England captain, and B, had a pretty good season herself. So you got to get past that.
Expectations this season, are we seeing them challenging for Champions League again? Are we seeing them getting into the Champions League group stages? And I think actually it's kind of, expectations are hard to work out. I actually think a lot of it depends on if they get into the Champions League, because that's another experience, and I've spoken to Mark Skinner about this a lot, and he's spoken about it a lot, is like needing to experience things to know how to handle them, and this will be a new experience for them should they progress, and then they have to try and manage the league and the Champions League if they progress. So it's kind of hard to...
Also, all hope is not lost for European competition if they don't qualify against Bram, because they go into the second round of qualification for the Europa Cup.
Oh Christ! Okay.
So they could still have international.
Can you do an
have European
on that for me?
I
later?
will do.
Thanks, and hopefully for these guys.
So it means that they still have a chance at playing in Europe this season, and that's again my one major worry about them, is that their squad could be spread rather thin. They have a few injuries at the moment.
Who is a key player that they're going to really need to step up this season?
I think Julia Ziggiotti will be huge.
I was going to go Turland.
I think she'll be huge.
She's got her shooting boots on.
Yeah, 4 goals in 2 games. I think Ziggiotti is a player who can dictate the tempo from the middle of the park, and she links that defence to attack really well. She can clear up. She's a really tenacious player. I really liked her during her time at Brighton. She had a pretty good Euros as well. And yeah, I think she will be a really good addition to that midfield. I really hope Simi Arujo gets a chance. She was on fire at the World Sevens. I know that's a different style of football, a different kind of football, but she kind of showed her quality, and I hope she finally gets to see the game time that she probably needs to progress on.
Well, they are opening up against Leicester at home, if I remember correctly, on the Sunday. So definitely one to watch there. Okay, team number 5, London City Lionesses, manager Jocelyn Precheur, captain Kosovar Asllani. Last season, of course, they topped the championship. They were promoted on the final day, or should I say the WSL 2? I don't know. Players out. There's a whole rake of players out, okay? I'll be here all till next Tuesday telling you about all the different players that are out.
Majority of last year's squad.
Yes, Chani Boyle-Lorca, Megan Campbell, Lucy Fitzgerald, Emma McCandy retired. Of course, Connie Schofield, Dan Carter just had a baby.
I'm not going to go through them, but I'm going to go through
just
them.
About to say, there's quite a few. Equally, a lot of players coming in. Some of those key names, of course, Danielle van der Donk, Tay Goldie's come in, Poppy Pattinson, Elena Lazari, Sophia Poor, Freya Godfrey, Nikita Paris, Elena Linari, I should say. There's basically been Katie Zellum, Alana Kennedy.
Can I just say, it's like a who's who of women's football.
Used to play in the WSL.
Well, but ranging from the present day to 10 years ago. It's like
quite 10 years.
I mean,
5 to 7.
Daniela van der Donk.
10 years?
She was playing 10 years ago.
2017, 2018, wasn't that when they won and she was there? It's 2025, my darling.
No, I know.
It's not 10 years.
She like that. She was a senior player at that point in time.
Listen, the point is,
it's a who's who of women's football. Big name, like there was some less big names, but big names in there as well.
Do you know what though? It's funny because I feel like some of these names maybe weren't as big when they were here, but now they've gone and come back to a team that's just been promoted. It feels like big signings, right? And it kind of is showing you the purse strings have definitely been loosened for London City Lionesses. I think the fact that you have this kind of little bit of a safety net, there's no guaranteed relegation this season, has allowed them to just go, ship them out, ship them in. We're going to reshuffle, reshake, and we're going to go for it. And I think there's understandably been a lot of discussion about how they're going to challenge for the top 6 and how everyone thinks they're going to do amazing because of all these signings. And I just think we need to temper our expectations a little bit, because I think it's going to take time for so many players to gel. And on top of having to gel with each other, you're in a new league. And on top of that, you're in the top league. There's no room to breathe. The first game's Arsenal. Like, do you know what I mean? I just think everyone's getting understandably excited.
I think there was also maybe a bit of, I don't know, I think a bit of surprise that they, not from the general public maybe, but within the championship at that point in time, the WSL2, that they, despite the acquisitions that they made last season and bringing in some stellar names like Kosovare Asllani, Sophie Jakobsen, those kind of players, that they made it up so quickly, because their first half of the year was not that great.
They went on a good run.
They stumbled a little bit. I remember being at the loss at home to Birmingham City and watching them and feeling like they weren't going to do it this season.
And that final game was foundation. Tight.
And that's in a league which, while it's a very tough league, you have the ability to play ball possession. I mean, if you look at Crystal Palace and their run to the title in the WSL2, 2 years ago, they played a very attacking ball possession football because they had time and space on the ball to be able to do that. And quality. And I think you don't get that in the WSL at all. You very quickly have to learn how to be comfortable without the ball, but also play quickly. And while you have players of extreme international quality there, doing it together is not an easy task, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt. I do think, I don't know, I mean, there are some hugely quality players in there.
Do think they'll stay up. I don't think they'll have a relegation issue.
I think they'll definitely finish mid-table. I just don't want to put my hat on,
eggs in one basket,
my house on them qualifying for the Champions League or winning the league yet. I just think they need time, and we don't know how they're going to shape up. It could go as smooth as anything, and they could, dominate and be exactly what some of those names in football say they're going to be, and they're going to gel completely and play brilliant football. Or it could be a disjointed mayhem, or it could be somewhere in between.
Well,
we literally have no idea.
I'll tell you who's confident is Freya Godfrey, and I'd love to be able to play you that video or that audio. But unfortunately, the interview that I did do and did record has disappeared somewhere in the ether of the laptop that it was recorded on in London City Lionesses grounds.
It might still be found.
I was in France. They were at the London City Lionesses training. Everything was recording, but it cannot be located. So what I will say is keep an eye out, because it might turn up. It's not going to turn up in this episode, unfortunately. She spoke very well. She's very excited. She's excited about, I kind of asked her about that. She's gone there permanently now, obviously, but she's still a young player, but she's actually kind of like one of the leaders or more senior because she's been there, and now you've got all these really well-known established players coming in, and they're the newbies, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic where she's going to be learning a lot from them, but equally she has as much to teach them about the club and their ambitions and everything else. So it was a good chat with her, and hopefully it will be found somewhere, but it does mean that our London City Lionesses bid is a little bit shorter than the others, which is annoying. Expectations we've touched on. We're not going to go too crazy, but we do think they'll be safe from relegation. Who do you think will be, of the array of players, who will be a key player for them, do you think?
I think Van der Donk still has a lot to offer. I really hope that Isabel Goodwin gets her chance, because she was so good last year in the championship.
I forgot Nikita Paris has gone there as well. Bloody hell.
Yeah, but I think she might see her game time limited a little bit. I think when you have a goal scorer of Goodwin's quality, who has proven that she can do, and I remember speaking to Jocelyn Pressure several times last season, and he was almost like, I get frustrated because I know how high her ceiling is, and when she's not, like,
there yet. I know how far she's got to go, like how much she can reach, and that she can do everything. And I think they do have a gem on their hands, but I hope this influx of players doesn't mean that she gets to have to sit on the bench and wait for League Cup games, because they aren't playing many games this season. That's like we know that you play 22 games a season. It's not a big league, and you can very quickly find your game time limited.
Yes, but also that's another thing you have to factor in is you've got players now who were the ones that got you there, and now you've got new players coming in and they're just expected to gel and get on and be harmonious. So that's just another facet that you have to manage when you've got a team coming up who really want to challenge straight away.
I just want to see what she does when it's like when we talk about Michelle Germain needing game time and being challenged at the very top and getting that regular time to be able to show what she can do. It's the same. Exactly the same for Isabel Goodwin. She is a star in the making if she has the opportunity to be.
Right, final team at last. Tottenham Hotspur. Manager Martin Ho, captain Bethany England. Last season they finished 11th. I didn't write down the amount of points behind they were, because I think they finished on 20 points, which would mean they were 40 points behind.
On the same score as Leicester, I think.
Yeah, which is 20. Players out: Rosella Ayan, Hayley Rasso and Becky Spencer, and just the one player in, Toko Koga. No pressure. Right, last season highlights. I genuinely struggled to find some last season highlights. And I don't mean that in an RC way. I just mean genuinely, like the previous season, we were so excited. We were so excited about the style that Villaham had brought, that the players seemed to buy into. There was an excitement when you watched them, right? They were an attacking team. They created a lot of chances. They shipped goals, right? And it was a case of kind of getting both ends of the pitch to work at the same time. This season, it felt like it was trying to get any of the ends of the pitch to work at any point, because they just seemed to lose any kind of identity. I think they really struggled to get a string of games together, to get momentum together. And then there was games where they play well and get nothing out of it. I think back to that Manchester City game, and I remember the first half. But I remember the first half being like, bloody hell, they can play like this. Like, this is what they have in their locker, but they just can't do it consistently for 90 minutes and when it matters.
I have been thinking a lot about Tottenham's season last year, and I think a lot of it was defined, maybe this was surprising people, by panic. I think they didn't get the start that they wanted. And they
started the 4-0 win over Crystal Palace.
No, I know. Well, yeah, that's probably the highlight of their season.
Oh, there you go.
No, but after that opening day win, they didn't really go on any kind of run or get any kind of momentum that they wanted. And that led to him chopping and changing and moving things around and trying to fit
his commitment.
Not even commitment, but square pegs and round holes. And like insisting on trying to fit Martha Thomas and Bethany England in the same team. It doesn't work. It's not worked yet. And it was consistently seeing Bethany England drop out of the centre forward role, which meant that, she is their best goal scorer.
Can I give an example? That Manchester City game, poor Martha Thomas went off injured. Bethany England was on the pitch for less than 90 seconds and she scored.
Yeah, because she is, we all know what Bethany England can do.
And she was injured for a time.
She's done it for many, many years. She is a really good, instinctive, natural goal scorer in the box. She can get her head or her body on anything. She reads the play like no one else in terms of those areas. And he kept insisting on dropping her deeper. And that means you're taking your maybe one potent weapon out of her position and leaving others to fill in. And while there were maybe some bright sparks here and there, I think Jess Naz at times, but she lacked productivity.
She didn't have the season she had
Ella
the
Morris
previous season.
Had a really good season.
Then she got injured.
No, but then she
she got
injured. Yeah, towards the end of the year.
Bethany England was injured for a bit.
But I think Jess Naz had they lacked real productivity in that front area, especially, and they lacked stability in the back. And he switched from 3 at the back to putting Molly Bartrop in midfield.
Oh my God, do you remember that game?
It just looked like
he had
panic.
I was out of idea. And when I say he lost his commitment, he was so committed to a style, it felt like, when he first came in. And then suddenly, because it wasn't working, and we've seen from other managers like a Dario Vidicic, and actually at times he would say this, Robert Villaham, in the first season, the most important thing is our performance. And even if we haven't won, our performance and basically their commitment to what they're trying to do and the understanding and the players' understanding of what they're trying to do. And he wanted to see progress in that respect. And that just seemed to be, it was almost like that was no longer important and the results are more important, but then they weren't committed to what they were trying to do to get those results. And as you say, it was panic stations a little bit where you couldn't commit to a friggin' number 9, never mind like a style that
It's
you were trying
really
to play.
weird because in his first season,
there was less fear.
Well, yeah, but they played well, and then they went through that slump where they conceded so many goals to Manchester City and then United, I think. And there was a bit of panic, but he fixed it and he went back to the drawing board a bit, made them more resilient so that they finished out pretty strong and got on that cup run. The second year, maybe it's because it happened earlier or because they never got any momentum whatsoever, but that panic just, as I said, just set in, and he never really... He just scrapped the drawing board entirely, I think. It felt at times. There was just no drawing board in place.
Do you think in first season he felt less pressure because he had the freedom of being a new manager and felt like he was allowed to try and express himself and to bring in a style of play? And I think for a lot of people, like a lot of fans want to see a style. I think that is important to fans, to feel like, you know, even if you're not winning, you're seeing progress. And I think Spurs have had such an up and down, mostly down, since they've been in the WSL, that they had that good season and then they had the slump. And I think for fans, like, seeing an identity mattered and seeing a manager who seemed to be bringing in a style mattered. But then you kind of have to back that up. And I think, yeah, he panicked early when they weren't backing it up. And I don't know whether he felt pressure from up the top, then he felt we weren't getting the results, and you know they'd started so well last season and it wasn't happening this season, and suddenly he couldn't handle that pressure either.
I do think there was a lack of investment in the calibre of player
100%.
that they lost. So losing Grace Clinton and Celine Bizet in the same window, yes, they never owned Grace Clinton, but she went back to United.
And you kind of knew that was going to happen.
But they were the two like core attacking players alongside Bethany England and Martha Tronemus, who went on a really good run at the start of that season, who really held that team together. And to lose two of them all at once and not find... Yes, they brought in some good young quality who maybe were players for the future. I think in hindsight, the Hayley Rasso buy was more on name than actual performance, maybe. And that didn't work either. But yeah, they just kind of... There was two shaped holes, Manchester United shaped holes in that attacking area that they never quite filled. And I do think that's, you know, setting them back immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. We did get to speak to Olivia Holt, and I do have a clip from her that you can listen to now. She seems quite excited about Martin Ho, quite excited about the new season. I'm sure delighted to put last season behind them very much and really focus on what they can do this season. I know they haven't brought in many players, but hey, at least there's got to be some stability. There's got to be some established relationships within that team. And I think Martin Ho will bring fresh ideas. But yeah, here's what she had to say.
And of course, you've got a new manager this year. How do you find the difference with the new manager? Is it very different? Is training different?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, as you said, he just came in, but from day one, he's just changed a lot of things in a positive way, and I think, yeah, so far he's really proved that he's a good coach. He knows what he wants, and I think we needed that.
Can we expect something different from Tottenham this year, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can expect a team that are way more brave on the ball and without the ball, way more intensity as well. And then, yeah, hopefully they will show in the results as well.
Do you feel you got to show a little bit of that in your pre-season game against Arsenal?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think a lot of people has had bet on that we would go out and win that game against Arsenal. So it was especially nice to prove for ourselves that we can play up and play against these teams and actually give like a good try. And also for everybody else that, okay, Tottenham, they're going to be ready this season.
I think from that game, there was a lot of things. Obviously, beating Arsenal, coming back from being behind to equalising, to leading, scoring 4 goals. Like, these are all really good things to tick off in a pre-season, right?
Exactly. And also just to build confidence, like to score 4 goals in a game is good, is very good. It would be in any game, but especially to do it against a team that basically 1 or 2 months ago won the Champions League. We gain a lot of confidence from that. So I think overall it was
it was a really good experience for us, and something we can take a lot from this game. But at the same time, we also need to stay grounded, and this is a training camp. We and them both know that we have to try new stuff, and new players are coming in, and so. But it was a good game.
She was a good signing for them, and I think we'll hopefully find her feet a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's always hard when you're coming in January, and I don't think she was entirely fit. I think she struggled with injuries as well. So she'll be looking to have had a good pre-season, hit the ground running, and see what can happen. Because she's a quality player. From what we saw of her in her sort of cameos, she can do a lot. And I think the squad is littered with good quality, and there's some young good quality in there. It's just giving them the chance to find that fruition, and maybe the confidence is needed.
Yeah, and I think that's something Martin Ho touched on, wanting to bring back, a positivity and a confidence within the squad. And I'm intrigued to see how he does. He did well at Brann in the time that he was there, and getting them to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, I believe it was, which is pretty impressive given the squad that he had. And I just think, part of me is concerned that he hasn't really been given what looks like any kind of budget to spend players-wise.
But frustrating, just wider. This seems to be a definite theme this summer. And I don't want to say it's entirely because of this, but is it because the jeopardy of relegation is less?
Quite possibly.
Teams know
they don't need to spend.
They don't need to spend to stay in the league. They know a playoff is coming their way if they finish 12th. And therefore, the lack of ambition in terms of... And that's not... I know we've talked about this, and there is a jeopardy in that playoff. But probability-wise, the 12th place WSL team, with any of the experience of these teams, any of these teams in league, are going to beat that third place team, probability-wise. So
you could be onto something.
I wonder if they've gone, and
it's funny because that hasn't affected London City Lionesses.
But isn't that also interesting? Because when the news about the promotion, the relegation being scrapped, came through, it was all about making a more competitive league. And actually, whether intentionally or subconsciously this summer, about 4 of these teams have taken the foot off the investment gap gone, we don't need to spend.
I want to finish on Spurs, but how do you think that's going to impact what we see? Do you think there's going to be a bigger gap between the top 5, 6 and the bottom? I mean, there was a pretty big bloody gap from 5th place was 28 points?
I hope I'm proved wrong, but I think there is probably a clear bottom 2, bottom 3.
Okay, expectations for Spurs. I think a lot of us are
probably
not expecting
area.
A lot from
I don't think they'll
season.
finish bottom, but I don't think they will find themselves too high up the table. And yeah, I mean, I probably will be proved wrong. But I do worry that when you're looking at the investment, I kind of take West Ham out of it a bit. And I was writing their preview today, and while they haven't invested and there isn't really a star signing, I just think that at the moment, if no one else leaves, Skin has pretty much kept her top 15 players.
Yeah.
And yes, they need a deeper squad, but she's kind of kept the players that she likes in the team. So there's a stability there, and they have Martinez who scores all the goals. So I think that's a difference maker. When I look at these 3 teams, Leicester, Tottenham and Liverpool, I just struggle to see that kind of player who is a difference maker. Bethany England was back in the day, but it's...
Is Bethany England their key player this season? Yeah.
Yeah.
Without
but
question.
She is also, every season that goes by is another season that goes by.
Well, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how much time Martin Ho is given. I hope he's given a full season, and I hope he's given 2 transfer windows to actually bed in what he wants to do. He's a manager who isn't necessarily totally wedded to his style and will play plan A, plan B, plan C. He's willing to adapt, which I think is important.
And he's proven he can do quite a lot with very little.
Exactly. So I'm intrigued to see how he gets on. But again, it's another team who haven't really invested on the pitch and just think, change the manager and it'll fix everything. So maybe it won't be too much of a surprise if the teams that we think end up down the bottom, that will be the theme.
And I think what I said previously, if it turns out to be that way, I think that could be a huge argument against ever closing the league.
Absolutely.
If there wasn't a strong enough argument already.
Absolutely. Right. Well, between us, between 2 episodes and between the 2 of us, we've managed to cover all 12 teams in the WSL, shaping up to be as exciting as ever. We say it every season. It's going to be even more exciting. What I hope for is a more exciting run-in. I don't want the season finished before the last weekend. I don't want a 12-point gap between first and second. I want it to get tighter.
You want like the year before.
Oh yeah, goal
Final
difference.
day drama.
Yeah, that was great. And I want to see, upsets. I want to see teams lower down snatching points off teams at the top. I want to see an exciting league. I'm sure it is going to be that. We will be there every step of the way, as we always are. And we will also be coming back with a championship preview as well this week. You'll be sick of our voices. We'll also be doing 3 games this weekend, so we'll have loads to catch up on next week as well. And you won't miss a single minute if you make sure you are subscribed wherever you listen or wherever you watch, and follow us across all of our social media platforms. We are at GirlsontheBall. Do make sure you are signed up to our Substack as well. We've got both a free and a paid option where you will get extra bonus content if you are a paid subscriber.
And we have a September offer.
And we have a September offer, oh my God.
For the month of September, 20% off the annual price.
There you go, lucky you. All right, well, I look forward to chatting to you again very soon, because we will be back very soon. See you then.